Today I'll explain part 2 of I Spied on Your Grave. There are different characters in it, but the storyline is almost same. In this part, a young woman named Katie was shown. She was a nice girl and well-mannered. She used to work in a coffee shop, but she wanted to become a model. She also told that to her friend. Her friend said that she should arrange a shoot of hers. Katie noticed an advertisement of free photo shoot there. She noted down their number. Coming home, Katie saw their page and it attracted her. Katie contacted the number. She sent them her photographs as a portfolio. They liked her pictures and they asked her to come to the studio at 10 a.m. in the morning. The next morning, Katie went there. A shoot was going there and it was very strange and revealing. Meantime, Katie met 3 boys. They were all brothers. One was named Ivan, a curly-haired boy, and there was another brother laying on the box. Katie also brought some clothes with her for the shoot. Ivan asked her to wear a lovely dress from those costumes. The man began taking her photograph. His brother was assisting him in capturing photos. When Katie owned dress, Ivan didn't seem happy while taking photographs. The man asked her to wear a short dress than that and also added to expose some skin. His brethren were observing their conversation. Katie was a nice woman, she couldn't do that just to become a model. She moved from there without saying anything. Later, she returned with her luggage to home. She released her exhaustion sitting on a couch. She also left the dream to become a model. The next day, she was going for jogging, and when she returned, someone knocked at her door. He was the same boy, the brother of Ivan, Georgie. He gave her a USB and said that the USB contained her pictures. Katie refused, saying she didn't need them, but the curly-haired boy said, "Don't worry, they had deleted their pictures, so she wouldn't feel bad." Upon insistence, Katie took the USB. At night, we are shown the curly-haired boy in his studio. He was seeing the pictures of Katie very awfully in a dark and silent room. On the other side, at night, when Katie went out of her house to throw the garbage, getting a chance from it, the curly-haired boy, Georgie, went into her apartment. Katie didn't know that. She didn't notice or suspect anything wrong and slept in his bed. When she woke up at night, she learned that the curly-haired boy was taking her picture. Katie was startled knowing his presence. She warned him, saying she would scream unless he left. She stopped him and damaged his face with a stun gun. Then she tried to escape from the place. She also screamed, but Georgie covered her face. He dragged her inside forcibly. The next door guy woke up hearing the commotion. He misbehaved with her and beat her, even kicked her to stop her movement. He gagged her with a piece of cloth and asked her to stay quiet. He tied her hands while turning them behind. He again tortured her. He said if she would make a noise, he would kill her. Hearing Katie's voice, the next door neighbor came there and saw her laying on the ground and gagged. But Georgie stabbed his abdomen multiple times and killed him. He had taken a life there and didn't know what he would do with Katie. After that, he injured her face with a knife. The man was getting sadistic with her. Later, Georgie brutally violated her, leaving her groaning. The stabbed neighbor was witnessing her misery. After some time, he realized his mistake. He screamed, wept, and then he called his brothers. Ivan and his other brother arrived there immediately. But instead of reprehending him, they started removing his fingerprints. They removed all the proofs from which it could be proved that their brother had done the slaughter. They picked a knife and placed the fingerprint of Katie there while removing the fingerprints of theirs. They placed it near the dead body of the neighbor, so it would seem as Katie had killed him and then she escaped. Afterwards, they forced her to take ketamine. She began losing consciousness. They put her in a box and took her somewhere with them. When Katie came to her sense, she saw that Ivan was ravishing her. Other brothers of Ivan started doing creepy things with her. The other man was pissing on her. After that, they left from there. But Katie's condition was worse and she was feeling broken. They again came there in the basement. They gave her some new clothes. Georgie unchained her to put the clothes on her, but that time Katie attacked the head of him with a bucket. Escaping from there, she screamed and asked from pedestrian to help her. Moments later, she was noticed by a sheriff and a detective. The detective took her with him to the office. Luckily, he was a nice man. He began interrogating what happened to her. Meanwhile, a lady came into the detective office. The detective allowed the lady to talk to her. and she mentioned that she was Anna and she ran a shelter for victimized people. Also added it was also done with her. But she wasn't a good lady, she was mother of those boys. Here Katie would again be trapped. She made her sit in her car. Katie said her she wanted to go to American Embassy. She asked her not to be worried and she called someone in the car. He said her they were going home and after that she could go to American Embassy. Katie trusted her and that was one of the biggest mistakes of Katie. That lady in fact was the mother of Georgie. She was the stepmother of Ivan. Ivan and Georgie were stepbrothers. Then the lady took Katie to a basement. It was the same place where Katie was confined before. The women spitted on her, showing contempt. There Ivan again grabbed her. With that, Ivan's father also appeared there, with an intention to torture her. He gave her shocks with an electric stunner. After a while, he also ravished her. Then we saw Ivan's mother went to her room. She started shedding tears while playing opera music. We came to know that she was also doing that task forcefully. She was also in others' control. Then Katie's condition deteriorated and she also bleeded a lot. But even then, Ivan was beating her, and then he and his brothers dug the ground. He locked Katie in a box and buried her in the ground. Later they filled the ground. The good thing was, the box fell due to the weight of the box as the ground became so thin while digging the grave. The box opened and Katie came out luckily. She saw it was a sewerage line. Katie became happy and she felt some courage. She started searching for the door from which she could get out. When she opened the door, she found a church. She also met a father there, and he talked to her nicely after seeing her condition. Katie, getting out of the sewer, came to American Embassy, but she didn't enter as she had to punish them by her own hand. The father gave her warm clothes and food. He knew that Katie wouldn't trust anyone at that time. He didn't talk to her more and let her go from there. Katie went out but again came inside the church. The father told her that he could call the police. They will help her. But Katie refused him. It was clear from that the enemies would get her lethal treatment. Katie went to Ivan's house and found a hefty amount of money in a drawer. The next morning she went to a coffee shop. Georgie was sitting there. She served him a coffee pretending to be a waiter. When he took the coffee, he felt something in his mouth. It was Katie's locket. He saw Katie alive, so he chased her. Katie again came to the sewerage line. Georgie also came behind her as the following led him to the conduit. Katie came there with full preparation. She fainted him by putting a rope in his neck. She tortured him and cut his cheek with a knife. She also incised his different limbs with that knife. Due to the incision, his much blood was wasted. On the other side, she came into a bar to another brother of Ivan, Nikolai. He was drinking. She again served him a drink by adding something to it. He felt like vomiting. Afterwards, as he described Katie, he couldn't believe his sight. He went to the washroom having felt uncomfortable. Then he confronted Katie. Going behind, Katie, having dragged him to a closet, drowned him in a toilet. She again shoved his head in another commode filled with excrement. Due to the smell and shortage of breath, his condition was worse, and he died there at last. Later we saw Georgie. His wounds were developed much. Katie, having taken a rod, damaged his injury more. Then it was the turn of Ivan's father. He was in the church for prayer. Suddenly he and Katie saw each other. The man pursued her in the sewer. Then Katie also fainted him while hitting something on his head. Having tied him to a iron bed, she gave him electric shocks as he had given her. After that, she started a huge electrical machine and put its wire in his mouth. The other wire on the iron bed so that the electricity would increase. And Ivan's father got burnt alive and died. Then Katie went to the basement of their house because she had to take revenge on that lady also. The women returned home by the time. Katie started playing the music. Hearing that music, the lady also came to the basement. When the lady saw the broken ground, Katie pushed her into the spot and she fell in the sewer. Meanwhile, having returned home, Ivan learned something was wrong. Katie picked up the lid of the box and hit on the lady's head multiple times. As Katie injured her, the lady also passed out. Meanwhile, Ivan also came to the basement and reached the sewerage line. He saw his brother in egregious condition. Meanwhile, the detective knew everything by talking to the father. He showed the investigator the way where Katie took refuge. He reached the sewerage line to help Katie. There, George perished due to the spreading of the infection. She also bashed Ivan's head from behind. Gaining sense, he found himself tied on a table, naked. She began crushing his scrotum with a bench vise. Still, Ivan was resisting Katie's tormentation. Later, getting a chance, he stapled Katie's neck. The detective fired his gun and the bullet shot his head. The investigator apologized to Katie, saying he should have helped her at the time when she came to him. But Katie didn't say anything and departed from there. Katie went outside and patched a smile. It was a peaceful smile, implying she had her vengeance. With that, she went to American Embassy to surrender there. She was proceeding to the office, and here the movie I Spied on Your Grave 2 draws the conclusion. Well, that's all for today. Thank you.